want to start with mentalism, the principle that everything begins in the mind. Sounds like a lot, I know. As Hermes Trismegistus said, the mind is of the very essence of God. In other words, your thoughts are divine tools of creation. Whatever you think, you start to create. The mind is the first point of creation. It's the starting line. But for this podcast, let's break it down a little simpler. The mind, O Tat, is of the very essence of God. If indeed there be any essence of God distinct from all else, and in it are contained all things. Hermes Trismegistus. Welcome back to another solo session. I'm excited to have you here. Thank you for joining me. Today we're diving into the very essence of creation itself. Have you ever wondered how the universe works both on a grand and personal scale? How we create our lives, both the good and the bad, through our thoughts, feelings, and energy. Before we dive into the core of today's discussion, let's take a moment to explore the figure behind the teachings I'm sharing with you today. Hermes Trismegistus. Hermes Trismegistus is a legendary figure who embodies both the wisdom of both ancient Egypt and Greece. Now, according to myth, the Egyptian god of wisdom Thoth reincarnated as Hermes, the Greek messenger of the gods, and the bringer of knowledge. This reincarnation allowed Thoth's wisdom to carry forward across cultures. Now, I'm sure many of you probably heard of Hermes, and if you haven't, that's okay. Hermes Trismegistus is known as the thrice great Hermes. He passed down the Hermetic principles, ancient teachings that help us understand the nature of the universe and our role in creation. Now, he is said to have authored foundational texts like the Emerald Tablet and the Corpus Hermeticum, where these teachings are detailed. So if you want to investigate on your own or learn more, I encourage you to look those up. There's tons of YouTube videos, references, you'll see plenty out there. But today, I want to go through 3 of the core principles that he talks about: mentalism, correspondence, and vibration. Now, I touched a little bit on correspondence, and you can check out that video. I'll either put it up here or down there, where I talked a little bit more about that. But for today's video, we're going to dive into these 3 laws, which I like to call the Trinity of Creation. Now, these are ancient laws of the universe passed down through the ages to show us how to create our lives with intention. So why don't we dive into how these principles work, how you can apply them to your own life, and create meaningful shifts and transformations. Because knowledge is great, but wisdom comes from actually integrating that which we know. So I want to start with mentalism, the principle that everything begins in the mind. Sounds like a lot, I know. As Hermes Trismegistus said, the mind is of the very essence of God. In other words, your thoughts are divine tools of creation. Whatever you think, you start to create. The mind is the first point of creation. It's the starting line. But for this podcast, let's break it down a little simpler. So let's think of your mind as a garden. Every thought you have is like a seed you plant. If you focus on fear and doubt and negativity, that's what you're planting. And those seeds will grow and eventually overrun your garden, which means that's what you'll harvest. But if you focus on joy, abundance, and love, you're planting seeds that will flourish and bear fruit. The mind is where all creation begins, and you want a plentiful harvest. You don't want one that's full of weeds or poisonous plants, so to speak. Now, there was a time when I was deeply out of alignment with my own work. I was a project manager for a telecom company, working 70 hours a week under intense deadlines. My mind was constantly consumed with stress. I felt overwhelmed by the weight of my responsibilities. The mindset of stress and chaos created more of the same in my outer world, and things at work only seemed to get worse. Now, at the time, I didn't realize the connection between my inner state and my outer reality. But I started to understand that the energy I was feeding into my mind, this constant feeling of stress, was manifesting in my life and work. It was like I was planting seeds of chaos without even realizing it. That was fun. So I knew at the time something needed to change. That's when I made a shift. I decided, why don't I try something different, right? I know this isn't working. What do I have to lose? So I used visualization as a tool of transformation. I sat down and I wrote out exactly my ideal job, like in every detail. I didn't just write or imagine the job itself. I focused on how did it make me feel? What did I feel like when I went into work? How did I feel like doing the work? How did I feel like when I left? How is it affecting the rest of my life? I wrote down how peaceful and balanced I felt, how I was working in a job that was aligned with my values, how I had time for myself, and how I wasn't constantly stressed. Now, this took some practice on my end. I wasn't used to doing this. It wasn't a practice I had had in my life that I used all the time, so it felt weird at first, just going to be honest. But again, I went back to, well, what do I have to really lose? I mean, if nothing changes, I'm exactly where I am. But if something does change, I'm in benefit, right? I'm harvesting and bearing new fruit. So I did this every day without fail. Right before bed, I would visualize everything I just described to you. And I did that right before bed, right before I fell asleep, because when you're in that state where you're just about to fall off, you actually have access to your subconscious mind. So it's an easier place to plant a seed because you're getting ready to go to sleep and you won't have contradictory conscious thoughts going, well, that's silly, that's crazy, all those things. So there's a time of day to actually plant fertile seeds, and I would suggest doing it right before you fell asleep, or even right when you wake up. But I found right before I fell asleep was a better time period. So again, I went back to visualizing this as I was falling asleep, and I not only wanted to visualize it, but I wanted to feel that peaceful sense, that joy, like, oh yes, the job of my dreams, or at least a better job than I had, and how peaceful I was. So I did that without fail. And over time, I noticed a shift within me. Even though I was still in my current job, I started to approach my own work with more ease and balance and realize I don't have to make myself stressed out over this. I'm the one putting that on me, even though, yes, I had deadlines and stuff, but at the end of the day, I can only do what I can do. So as I kept doing this and shifting and feeling more ease, I was like, okay, I can see something changing. And then one day, I get a call out of the blue. And I'm like, I got a call from our client offering me a better position. I literally had to step out of my office where I was to take the call. And I remember standing out there talking to him and thinking, is this really happening? Like, I didn't see this happening at all. But he offered me an amazing position, and it had more pay, it had better hours, and way less stress. I could work from home. I didn't have to come in from an office, and I literally didn't have to see anybody at all. I barely talked to, eventually I took the job, but eventually I didn't even have to talk to my boss. Like, I was so on my own. It was amazing. And when I look back now, I realize by visualizing and doing that, my outer world had started reflecting my inner peace in that which I wanted. I had cultivated my garden and my mind to bear fruit of the very job I was looking for at the time. This is the power of mentalism. Your thoughts create your reality. Now think about that. Think how powerful that is. So now I want you to take a moment and I want you to reflect on your own thoughts. What seeds are you planting in the garden of your mind? Are you focusing on what you want to create, or are you unconsciously planting seeds or fear or doubt? This is the first step of your awareness to your conscious creation. If you're not checking in with your thoughts, how do you know what you're creating? And considering that 90% of our days are lived on autopilot, I would say a good portion of us aren't checking in with our thoughts. But you need to be, and that's where mindfulness would really help you and is a great tool to do that. Now, I want to move on to the next principle of correspondence. I spoke a little bit about this in the previous podcast, so if you want to check that out, I'll pop the video up here, or I'll do a link actually down in the description where you can check it out. And I would say it's a great introduction to this law, but let's dive a little further deeper into it. So the principle of correspondence is the law of as above, so below, as within, so without. So this law tells us that what happens on one level of reality reflects what happens on another. Your inner world, your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs mirror your outer experience. It's the bridge between the mental and your physical plane. So if mentalism is the point of creation, correspondence is the bridge taking us to the physical plane. But let's go back to the garden metaphor for a moment. If your mind is the garden and your thoughts are the seeds, then your feelings are the soil. So think about that. If your mind is the garden and your thoughts are the seeds, your feelings are the soil. Now you can plant all the seeds you want, but if the soil is unhealthy or filled with negativity, those seeds won't grow properly. In other words, if your inner environment, your thoughts and feelings, isn't aligned with what you want to create, your outer world won't reflect your desires. Let me give you an example from my own life. There was a time when I felt like I wasn't valued in my relationships. I kept thinking, why aren't people treating me with the respect I deserve? Why can't people see how much I give? I blamed the people around me, thinking they're the problem. But eventually I realized something deeper was going on, right? It can't be everybody else's problem. It's got to start here. And after taking some time to reflect, I understood that the way I felt about myself, my own lack of self-worth, was being reflected back to me in my life, in my relationships. I wasn't valuing myself, so others weren't valuing me either. My outer world was simply reflecting the inner beliefs I was carrying, and I wasn't even necessarily conscious of those beliefs. So you'll hear me say this a lot in these solo podcasts, and they're a big deal, meaning you gotta learn to be honest with yourself. After all the clients I've worked with, and there's been a lot, the one main ingredient that I see that everybody struggles with is being honest with themselves. Why? We're really good at fighting for our excuses. You may not think so. You may be like, Beckett, I don't know what you're talking about. But trust me, if you take some self-reflection, you'll get there. We don't know how to be honest with ourselves and say, yeah, I'm the issue and I need to change. That doesn't mean that other people can't be at fault for doing things to you. That's a different topic and a different podcast. What we're simply talking about is the law of correspondence. So how you're feeling inside is pulling in experiences that will show you those beliefs. So if you're getting these experiences, you're going to want to look into your beliefs and feelings. I digress. But once I made a decision to work on my self-worth, everything changed. Now, again, this was a practice. It took me time, self-reflection, journaling, mindfulness, all the tools I have. In essence, I almost had to become my own coach. But I had to get real with myself and understand that I wasn't valuing myself like I needed to. So I started to treat myself with more respect, setting better boundaries, valuing my time and energy. And guess what? My relationships started to improve. People began to treat me with the respect and value I had cultivated within myself. This is correspondence in action. What we experience in our outer world is a direct reflection of what's going on inside. Even one of my friends would laugh and go, oh, Beckett's big on his self-care on Sundays, or you don't bug him at this time. But they knew and could see, and what was interesting is they also started to take better care of themselves. It's rippling out. So I want you to ask yourself, is there any area in my life where my external experiences doesn't align with what I truly desire? Maybe it's with your finances, your relationships, even your health. Take a moment to reflect on what's going on internally that might be affecting that area of your life. What feelings, thoughts, beliefs are you holding on to that might be getting in the way of your desires? And this is where your honesty is going to be the key to all this. Don't try to sugarcoat it. Be honest. Nobody else is going to know but you. And that's the most important person. So I encourage you to journal on this. Write down one area where you feel there's a disconnect between your inner and outer reality. Explore your feelings and how they might be reflected in the situation. This process of self-reflection is key to shifting your outer experiences. Now let's talk about vibration. I'm sure you all have heard about this. Vibration and frequencies are key terms spoken all the time, especially in the spiritual community. But this is a big part of cosmic law. So the law of vibration tells us that everything is energy and everything vibrates at its own frequency. Even this table is vibrating. May not look like it, but it is. Nothing is ever at rest. This means that your thoughts and feelings and even your physical body all have a vibration, and the universe responds to that frequency. So to manifest what you want, you need to match the vibration of your desire. This is a key point I really want to stress. To manifest what you want, you need to match the vibration of your desire. So let's think of it like tuning into a radio station. Those that are old school, you get that. Maybe you younger generation don't really understand that, but bear with me. We actually had to tune into the radio station. If you want to listen to a particular song, you have to tune into the right frequency. The same goes for manifestation. If you want to attract abundance, joy, or love, you need to vibrate at the frequency of abundance, joy, or love. If you're vibrating at a low frequency, feeling stuck, fearful, resentful, you'll attract more of that energy into your life. And I don't know about you, I don't really want more of that energy. Let me share a little personal story. So the same job that I had before, I also felt very stuck in. There was no forward movement. It didn't seem like there was anywhere else to go. So no matter what I did, it seemed like nothing was moving forward. I realized that I also was vibrating at a lower frequency. I was carrying around the energy of being stuck, and that's exactly what I was attracting more of, because I just kept focusing on what was there in front of me, not what I desired or wanted. So, like I did before, I decided to shift my vibration. One simple practice I used was gratitude. So every morning, I would write down 5 things I was grateful for, no matter how small. It could be something as simple as the sunshine, or a cup of coffee. Over time, I started to notice a shift in my own energy again. Instead of focusing on what wasn't working, I started tuning into the good things that were already present in my life. And as my vibration shifted, so did my outer circumstances. Things started to move forward. Opportunities I haven't even considered began to show up. Just like the opportunity for a new job, I got art commissions that started to come in. I got different opportunities in showing my art shows, like things I had never considered that were even outside of my work. It was amazing and also very unexpected, but I realized, wow, this stuff really works. It's why I'm sharing this with you guys. Okay, so I want to do a quick meditation with you to help you raise your vibration right now, right in this moment. It's not going to take long. It's super simple. Obviously, if you're driving, don't do it now. Come back to it later. But if you can, I'd like you to practice this with me. So let's take a moment together to raise our vibrations. If you can, close your eyes and take a deep breath in and out. I want you to continue to breathe in and out. Keep breathing. And as you breathe, imagine yourself surrounded by a warm golden light that gently vibrates at a peaceful frequency. With every inhale, feel this golden light filling up your body, raising your energy. And with every exhale, release any heaviness or low vibrations that no longer serve you. Now I want you to continue breathing and silently repeat this affirmation. I am aligned with the energy of abundance and joy. I am aligned with the energy of abundance and joy. One more time. I am aligned with the energy of abundance and joy. Now take a few more breaths here and allow your vibration to rise and match what you want to create in your life. I'll give you a minute. Okay, so let's bring this all together into a simple formula you can work with. Think plus align plus vibrate equals manifestation. Now let's break these down again. Think. Mentalism. Set a clear intention of your mind. What do you want to create? Remember, your thoughts are the seeds of creation. Align. Correspondence. Make sure your inner world, your thoughts, your feelings, and actions are in harmony with what you desire. Is your internal soil fertile for the seeds you've planted? Vibration. Vibrate. Raise your vibration to match what you want to manifest, whether through gratitude, connecting with nature, meditation, a nice cup of tea, whatever puts you in the frequency or the feelings of that which you're desiring. Do those. Tune yourself to the frequency of what you wish to create. Does that make sense? So for instance, if you want more love, you should be more loving. Puts you in that vibration. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a mini ritual so you can practice this. First, write down one thing you want to manifest in your life. This is your seed. Next, reflect on how you can align your thoughts and feelings with that desire. Finally, choose one daily practice that helps raise your vibration. So whether it's gratitude, whether it's meditation, music, spending time in nature, whatever speaks to you and puts you in that frequency. One small thing a day. Commit to doing this practice for at least a week. What do you have to lose? Now that we've covered how mentalism, correspondence, and vibration can transform your life, I want to dive even deeper. In the next episode, I'm going to reveal the principle that can take your manifestation game to the next level. And this could be a game changer for anyone trying to manifest abundance or balance in their life. This next principle is polarity. And it has the power to flip your perspective completely. Trust me on this. It's something most people overlook, but once you understand how to work with it, you can turn any challenge or block into an opportunity for your growth. I've done a deep dive on this, and trust me, this is the key to unlocking one of your next big shifts. So you're going to want to make sure to subscribe to the podcast right now, hit the notification bell so you're first to know when the next episode drops. And until next time, stay aligned, stay present, and keep creating.